Namaste, everyone, and welcome. You know, in today's world, data is just everywhere. But how do we actually talk to it? How do we ask it questions and get answers? Well, it turns out there's a special language just for that. It's called SQL, and today we're going to learn its fundamentals together.
So, here's our plan. We'll start with the basics. What even is SQL? Then, we'll see how data is organized. After that, we'll explore the two main jobs of SQL, learn the basic commands to manage our data, and finally, see how we can ask much more specific questions. Sounds good? Let's begin.
All right, first things first, what exactly is this thing we call SQL? Let's build a really strong foundation right from the start.
To put it simply, SQL stands for Structured Query Language. And really, it's the language we use to give instructions to a database. Just think of it like you're telling a very organized computer assistant what to do with a huge pile of information. And for all you students following the CBSE syllabus, please pay close attention because understanding SQL is absolutely essential for working with relational databases.
Now, before we start speaking the language, it's important to understand the place where this conversation happens, the database itself. You see, all our digital information is organized in a very logical way.
It all follows this simple hierarchy. Imagine a large digital filing cabinet. That's your database. Inside that cabinet, you have different files, each one organized neatly like a spreadsheet. That's a table. Now, each row in that spreadsheet, say all the details for one particular student, that is a record. And finally, each individual column, like name or roll number, is called a field. Easy enough, right?
So you might be wondering, how do we make sure we don't mix up two students who might have the same name, say two students named Rahul? Well, this is where a primary key is so important. We give each student a unique roll number. This roll_no field becomes the primary key. It's a unique identifier that guarantees every single record is distinct. The main point here is no duplicates allowed.
Okay, so now that we get the structure, let's look at the two main jobs of SQL. I want you to think of it this way. One job is to build the structure itself, and the other job is to manage all the information you want to put inside it.
This slide shows the difference perfectly. On the left, we have DDL, which is Data Definition Language. This is all about the structure. Think of it like an architect's blueprint, you know? It's what builds the house. Then on the right, we have DML, or Data Manipulation Language. This is all about the actual data. This is what puts the furniture inside the house that you just built.
So let's start by building our house. The create table command is our main DDL tool for this. We use it to lay the foundation for our digital spreadsheet, telling the database exactly what columns we'll need and what kind of information will go into them.
And here's what that looks like in practice. Create table students, pretty straightforward. Then inside the brackets, we define our columns. Roll_no integer tells the system the roll number will be a whole number. Name varchar 50 means the name will be text with space for up to 50 characters. And we've also added city varchar 30 for the student city.
Great! Our house is built. The students table is all ready and waiting. Now it's time to furnish it. To start adding, viewing, and managing the actual student data. And for that, we use our DML commands.
These are the four commands you'll be using most of the time. We have insert to add new data, then select to look at the data, update to make changes to what's already there, and finally, delete to remove data. These are really the action words for your database.
Let's start by adding our first student to the table. For this, we use the insert into command. It does exactly what it says on the tin. It inserts a brand new row of information into the table we specify.
So here's how we'd add a student named Anjali from Delhi with a roll number of 101. We write insert into students, values, and then in the brackets we provide the values in the correct order. So 101 for the roll_no, Anjali for the name, and Delhi for the city. And just like that, Anjali's record is now in our database.
All right, now for what is probably the most important command in all of SQL, the select command. This is how we ask our database questions. Every time you search for a product on an e-commerce site or filter your emails, you can be sure a select command is working hard in the background to fetch that information for you.
Okay, so let's say we want to see all the information we have in our students table. We would just write this: select all from students. This is a very common command. But what does that little star, that asterisk, actually do?
Let's break it down. It's really simple. The select star part just means show me all the columns. So, the roll number, the name, the city, everything. And from students simply tells the database which table we're interested in. So, when you put it all together, it means show me all the data from the students table.
So far, we've just been asking to see everything. But the real power of SQL comes when you get a lot more specific. And that's where clauses come in. They help us ask much smarter, much more focused questions.
The first one we'll look at is the where clause. This is basically your filter. So instead of getting a list of every single student, you can use where to find only the students who meet a specific condition that you set.
And here's a perfect example. This command is saying, show me all the information from the students table, but only for the students where their city is Delhi. This way, you get exactly the data you need and none of the data you don't.
Now, what if you get your list of students, but you want it to be more organized? Well, that's the job of the order by clause. It sorts your results, just like you'd sort a list of names alphabetically. You can sort in ascending order, that's ASC, or A to Z, or descending order, DESC, which is Z to A.
Let's look at this final command. Select name roll underscore no from students. See what's different? This time we're only asking for two specific columns, but the really important part is at the end, order by name ASC. This will give us a perfectly neat list of student names and their roll numbers, all sorted alphabetically by their name. And that brings us to the end of our foundational tour of SQL. We've learned how to build tables, add data, and ask specific, filtered questions. So the final thought I'll leave you with is this. Now that you know the basic language, what kind of interesting questions would you want to ask a database? Thank you so much for joining me today.